Welcome back, everyone, to week 2, day 1. We're going to do a DOM manipulation demo and then break out into a group activity. And then we have lab code reviews for everyone that signed up today. And we're going to have to start it around 3:30. It will be in my room, so make sure that everyone there for group 5 is there at 3:30 because I have to meet at 3:15 with somebody. So it'll be at 3:30. And if we go into group 6 time, that'll be fine anyway. We'll just postpone group 6 until we're done with group 5. But we'll try to make that time. And so back to today's lesson, we're going to do DOM manipulation. So who can tell me what this is? What is that keyword that when I talk about that keyword this in quotations? What is that? What does that do? What is that in reference to?
Doesn't it reference the object that you're clicking, or?
Yeah. If you put it on an on click and reference it through the function call, the invocation, then you're able to use that that reference that you pass through using this to pass into a function in the JavaScript. So the keyword this there is used to it's like an anchor pulling in whatever it's attached to. If it's an on click on a button, that button will be received. If it's an on click on a input type submit or a link, anything. Okay, so that's what it is. And we're using that keyword this to reference what we want to change on the page. That's the way that we're able to anchor something from our page. But there's another way to do it, and this way may be even more useful. Okay, so what we're referencing is the query selector. Okay, the query selector is able to grab something on our page. Here we have an H1. Okay, H1 has the ID title. Okay, so this H1 has the ID title. In this area here, this would be in our JavaScript, we see var H1 equals document.querySelector hi, or H1. Okay, so it's a variable called H1, and it scans the document, the DOM, and it says .querySelector, so that means it selects something with whatever you're asking it, and you put in that ask right here in that parentheses what you're asking for. So in this case, it's asking for every single H1 on the page. Here we see another variable called document query selector. So scans the HTML document. It selects something by the ID title. So this ID title is what it's grabbing, just like it would in CSS with the hashtag symbol there. So when you put that hashtag title in quotations, in parentheses, by the query selector, by the document, into a variable, you can grab something on the page without using the keyword this. Okay, so the keyword this doesn't have to be there to make it referenceable on the JavaScript. You can go into JavaScript, you can look at something with an ID, the way you would when you were doing CSS. You have to create a variable in reference to it, and you make the right side of the variable name a document query selector, and then you put in something that you can identify it with. In this case, it's the H1. In the bottom case, it's just the second variable that's grabbing it by the ID. So you can say, I want to get this H1 by the ID. So let's say you have a button click that will change the title somewhere else, or whatever you want it to do. There's a million different types of ways that you can do something with this H1 or with anything that you want to grab. In this case, ID can be on a P tag, ID can be on a div, or whatever you'd like. And now you can grab it and do stuff with it, like remove it or change its background color, change its view, something. Now it's open to be changed at the user's clicks or on a timer. Okay, we haven't learned about timers yet, but we'll figure out what that is in a bit. So let's read here what it says. We've seen now how we can use our CSS to select HTML elements that we want to style. But how would you do something similar in our JavaScript? It turns out that what we've already learned about CSS selectors can still be applied, and we can continue to write selectors. The way to do that is to use a function called document.querySelector. If we want to select an element with an ID of title, we can write code that can look like the following. Okay, that's all I have said, just in the paragraph form. We can combine selectors like we've seen before. If, for instance, we had an image inside of an element with the class nav, we could write code that looks something like this. Okay, so we have a div with the class nav. Inside this div is an image tag, okay, with the src and all. Okay, we've seen that. There's an H1, we've seen that. So what are we looking at? We have this div class nav, and on the right hand side, we have a variable called image, logo image. And it's using the document.querySelector, and it's saying class because it's that dot there. That's how we identify a class on CSS. So it's the same here, saying .nav. So this one here, and it's saying not just the nav, but the image of the nav. So this is asking for the nav, for the image that is inside nav. All the images inside nav. So that's how you can grab something also that doesn't have a class on it. Something above it has a class. Okay, this image above has a class of nav. So I can grab this image by this class nav. Okay, let me take a poll right now to make sure we are understanding how we can grab something with the query selector and even grab something that is related to it.
So it's like telling the parent to grab a specific object if you wanted to do that, just making it easier.
Say that again, please.
So is it like just telling the parent to grab a specific child or children?
No, this is the way you would select all the children with a space. If you wanted to get a specific, only the direct child, right? Like there can be divs inside of divs here, and or there can be lots of images. This will grab all the descendants of that nav class, div class nav, all the images that are descendants. So there's only one here, but it's grabbing it. If there were another one, they would be grabbing that as well.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, so yeah, you can grab something on the HTML page now through this document.query selector. You can grab this H1, whatever HTML tag you create, you can now access it through making a variable and saying, grab it by this specific hashtag symbol. Okay, so let's go ahead and continue. So now, what are we doing here? We have an H3 that says lorem ipsum. So just some text just says lorem ipsum that doesn't mean anything. And we see here on the right, var h3 equals document query selector h3. So it's grabbing all the h3s. There's only one. So it's grabbing this one. Okay. And the line ends because we see the semicolon. On the next line, we see we're seeing h3.inner text equals quotes new title. So the next line said, okay, by the value of this variable h3, which is all the h3s on the HTML document, now all the inner texts are going to be new title. So instant change. The moment your page reads this, that you're not going to get a chance to see lorem ipsum. It'll be there for a slightest of moment before anyone can see it change. It'll automatically be read unless you put it on a command. On click, change this to this by this. I think we have to do that. So let's do that now. Okay, so I have my HTML file on the left. And on the right, I have my script.js. Okay, so create a file. I'll link my script src, and I say script.js. You can already read it. I did it wrong. So let's start over. Script, press down. Oh, fumbling now. Script.js. Okay. So now it's linked, and we want to grab this here. Put this in. Grab this one. Put this in. And let's see what we have. Already it says new title. So the moment the page loads, it read this script and determined to change it to new title. So we now want to slow down this process and make it on click to do this. So I want to then go inside here, say on click. So inside the quotes, I have to reference something. I'm going to reference a function name. So let's create a function around this. We have to say function change title. Put this in a function like this and slip this inside. You can hold down the option key. I think it is control on a PC while you highlight something and move it up and down like this. So there we are. Now we look here, it's back to lorem ipsum. Our HTML page was read by this live server. I already saved it, and the change happened the moment it was saved. The moment it was saved, it went back to lorem ipsum. Now we have this function wrapping this grabbing of the h3 by a document query selector. We have this h3.innerText, make it a new title, this command. So this one creates a variable and selects it. This line changes it. Okay, as soon as it reads line 7, it's going to change it. So imagine it would be a trace reader. It would go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It would get through 7 if it wasn't wrapped in a function and change it immediately. But now that it's in a function, we will say on click change title. And now we can say when you click it, run this function. And this function will be ran. This code will be read. And it will change then the H3's inner text to new title. So now let's test it. If we click it, it works. It's changed to new title. Because I said on click of this H3, run this function. I now didn't have to pass this. Before I would have put this on here. So what that also means is that I can change other things on the page by click. What if I made this H3? If you click this H3, you go to a new page, or you click this other thing and you now see something else on the page, another color change. Now you can make it so that when you hover over something, it'll change the view of something. Let's see here. Okay. In this instance, we have an image, and this button here below it says on click switch image. It runs this function switch image, and this variable is read already. So before we even read this function, this variable would have saved something on a T diagram somewhere on the JavaScript's memory, and it will say pet image equals to document query selector, grab this hashtag pet image, this ID of pet image. So this thing is like a claw. It grabs the thing on the HTML page by this hashtag symbol. So it's looking for an ID pet image. Okay, so this image. So it's grabbed already by this variable outside the function. And this function now says pet image src.src. It's going to be now this dog.jpg. So it's switching it from a cat to a dog. And we can also switch the alt. So now we can switch an image on a click, on the click of a button. We can switch the src of a image here that we have already selected outside of the function. Okay, do we understand how this is done?
So are you linking the image in JavaScript there?
Yeah, right here, it just grabbed the image in JavaScript outside of the function. So nothing had to be done. That thing was already captured by that var pet image. It's put in a box. But remember, variables are like boxes. We can put stuff in it. This is now something we're putting in. This image stored in this variable. Okay. We can, on a button click, pass in this and change the element.style background color from this color to now switch it to this one. So we can change something's color on a click. We have here something that will switch a page from dark mode to light mode. Here's the functionality for it. On a button click, activate this function. This function takes an element and asks if element class list contains dark mode, then switch it. Else, switch it to this. This is just like the light bulb. If else, it's just a little bit more words to access lightbulb.isOn. Now it's saying grab it by the element, the thing you passed in, this, the class list. Okay, what's the class list? If it contains dark mode. Okay, so it's just a little bit more complicated. We don't have the whole background scene, but this would be an example of it. This is the same as a light switch. You just have to write a little bit more words here. In this case, this is what we do understand. We say element.innerText. We can make that text there switch to this string, switch to light mode. Or we can remove it. So there's lots that we can do. Okay, well, let's continue. Here we have a select. Let's create this select here. Okay. Let's go down on the page a little bit. Okay. Let's see what this looks like on our page. I think I'll comment out that Lauren Gibson as well. Okay, so here we have something that says, I would like to eat. It's a select. I can select tacos, pasta, or sushi. And anytime I select it, I'll get a pop-up. It'll say, alert, you picked sushi. Alert, you picked pasta. Alert, you picked tacos. Anything I select, it's going to give me an alert. So this is how you do that. You have a label, okay? That's the part that says I would like to eat. Simple enough. And then we have a select. We have three options in the select. tacos, pasta, and sushi. Okay, so we have an opening and close to select. This is the close. The opening has something inside it. It has this thing called on change. Okay, so as soon as it recognizes a change, instead of on click, it says now on change. On a change of the option, run this function choose lunch and pass in this. Okay, so it will pass in the option on change. And so now this function is run choose lunch. It will take in the element, the option you selected, and alert by saying alert, you picked the string plus element dot value. So the value is, that's how it's reached. You say that element, which is the select dot value on the value of the element, which is set by the option pick. So that's why this works this way. Okay, that we know how an alert works. We know how to add a string to something. We know how to pass in an element through this. We're now just using something called on change on a select. So how comfortable would we feel building something like this? I mean, it's already here on the platform. It's already built for you. But how comfortable do we feel reading something like this? Okay. This will be something we most likely see on the test. Making something alert based on a select that you choose. Maybe on the test. Here we have a div called card. Takes an input, a value, and on the input, on the text that you put in, it's going to run this function, set name this. And it's going to say, before it runs the function, it's going to identify something. It's going to grab something, put it in the storage tank, name tag. So in this tank, we see document query selector, grab the name tag by ID name tag. Okay, so this H3, this one with the example is selected. And on the input, so whatever is put in the text, whatever's typed in, the function is going to say, receive that element, console log the value, and make the name tags inner text. This name tag above, this H3, make the inner text of this the element dot value. The element dot value is what we're typing in the input. So let's see how this looks. We'll copy this. Let's comment this out. So we have that. And there's that. So we said on input, take in whatever is put in here. So let's see what's there now. Okay, so this is what's here already. Input type text, We have a p tag. We have the example there. This is the example. And the value we set already there is example. So we see that inside the example text. If we change this now on input, so on the change of whatever is put in this text input, it's going to run a function that takes in the values. And that function is targeting the H3. So now I can say, hello world. Anything I write in this input now is connected to this H3 above. This is now connected. Okay, so that's the way you can do that with JavaScript and HTML. You can change by the function. You grab the H tag above by that document query selector, grabbing it there. The function receives the text that's input, console logs the value. So if I look at the console, there it is. Anytime it's changed, it's console logged. Every change value, it's console logged. And it also changed the inner text of the name tag to equal the value of the element that was input. Okay, so let's take a poll about how well we're understanding this now. Okay, so with this now being introduced, what I'm going to do is break us out into groups. I'm going to ask you guys to create a page where let me just draw on here like a fresh new thing here. Okay, I want you to make something creative that's gonna have like a be like a magic 8-ball that says an answer to something. Like when you click a button, it'll say the answer to whether I will win the lottery, if I will how do I say it? You know, anything I want to ask about a fortune, using today's morning's JavaScript function that we used, that whenever we, when we click the play to run our function, it would give us a new answer anytime we did it. So essentially what we're doing here is creating a button that will give us that value that we were console logging and display that answer in the magic 8-ball. So anytime you click the button here, we'll give a new answer of that function that we created that gives us a new value. anytime we ask it for life's answers. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. Does anyone have any questions about what we're doing? We'll do this for the next 20 minutes, and then we'll show our work, and then that'll be it for today. Okay, link a function to changing something on the page. Okay. Rooms are open. Okay, welcome back, everyone. We have to get started. So let's go ahead and present an answer to one of the solutions that we've made. So who'd like to volunteer?
I guess I'll volunteer.
Okay, go ahead, Benjamin.
So ours worked. I just tried to explain it to everyone, so it should work again. All right, so this is what we ended up with. We called it 8-ball. So once we start, it says press the shake button. You got our shake button down here. Whatever question you ask, it'll bring up your random answer. Okay. We basically made a circle, made a window. Inside the window, we made the ID text. And then outside of the circle, we made the button. Now we made the on click. For every time we click that button, we want to run the random quote function. We want to bring in this as the button. So in JavaScript, our function, random quote, we created a variable called answer. And answer is equal to life's answers, which is from the algorithm we did earlier. It chooses a random number in the array and gives the value to answer. Then we created this screen text, which reads the document, selects the query, the ID text, which is inside of the P, which is inside the window where all the text is going to be shown. So now we can manipulate that text by calling that element screen text, enter text, which means we're going to change it to the answer. And we did a random console log just so we can see that it was working. And then, yeah, I think that was it. So now every time you hit the shake button, you'll get a random answer inside of the window.
Okay, nice job. Can I take a look at your code? So when you passed in this on line 16,
Yep.
you passed in the button itself, right?
Correct.
So why did we need to do that?
So we were trying to put in, like we left it empty, it wasn't working. And I think we put in one of like the IDs maybe, and it wasn't working.
Okay.
So we
How about
honestly,
this? Let's delete it and see if it works without it.
okay. So it looks like it's still working.
Okay.
We put in something else and it wasn't working, so we
Okay.
just put that in there and it was.
All right.
So I guess it wasn't necessary, but it did work.
Okay. It worked. See, what it was doing is just passing in that button. But you guys
Yeah.
need that button. You guys were able to fix it without needing to do anything with that. But everything else here is just that morning function that we did where we use a variable to access random, and then we change the screen text, which we grab by the document query selector, to that answer. Okay, so that is how we do this. All right, we won't be sharing everyone's presentation. This is the answer to that. Okay, does anyone have any questions? Okay, Well, we have code reviews right now. I said actually we would start at 3:30, so that's the time we'll stick to for lab code reviews. And the 4 o'clock session, if we're not done by the time you're ready to start at 4, Kaya will do your code review. Okay, so that is the plan. I will go ahead and create the breakout rooms now, and then we'll go ahead and get started.